Is a carbon capture company getting massive Canadian handouts. Their biggest investor is Brookfield. This Prime Minister is more worried about making big bucks for his Brookfield buddies and building pipe dreams.
Pressure, and they should stop just whining.
If the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth.
Yesterday from the Prime Minister really freaked these Conservatives out because they saw the ambition in that speech. And not only did they see it,
Speaker, we will take no lessons from these Conservatives. Trust me on that.
To ensure the jobs of today and the future, they know that the youth...
The only thing that's revolting are those answers.
It is too bad that that minister didn't write the Prime Minister's speech yesterday, because it wouldn't have bored and depressed to tears all of those poor students stuck in that room. There he spoke about how they would have to sacrifice more and that it would take time to reverse all of the misery that has built up over the last 10 years. Mr. Speaker, young people want to have homes. They want to have jobs. They want to have hope. They want a budget that is affordable so they can have a life that is affordable. Will the Prime Minister introduce that budget so that Canadians can restore the promise of their country?
And we decide what comes next.
Canada know that this government has their back. It will continue. There's going to be a powerful statement for the young people of Canada.
Driving inflation. The more Liberals spend, the more it costs Canadians at the grocery store. 25% of Canadians are using food banks because they can't afford to eat. So when will the Prime Minister finally get his inflationary deficits under control so Canadians can put food on the table?
Mr. Speaker, Conservative members pretend to care about food insecurity, but then they call feeding children garbage.
Mr. Speaker, what's garbage was that answer?
Did the Prime Minister see the ad before it went out?
Of course there are too many people living in poverty in Canada, but there are significant initiatives being put in place by this government.
Honest and telling Canadians.
Canada's economy is in fact growing, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, termination letters are starting to roll out for CAMI workers out at Ingersoll just weeks before Christmas. One of the workers said it's a punch right to the gut. But on October 23rd, the Minister of Industry said, and I quote, "I expect a full update within 15 days from GM." Well, her self-imposed deadline has come and gone. There is no plan. There is no action. There is no update. Our workers can't keep feeding themselves off of empty Liberal promises. So after breaking her own promises, why should our auto workers believe a word she says?
Mr. Speaker, I beg to differ. You know why? Because the workers don't agree with my colleague's statement. The unionized workers are completely behind the government's plan to push back against any form of movement at Ingersoll, because we believe that GM can act along with the government and along with Unifor to bring back a new model. Meanwhile, I've had several meetings. I even went to Ingersoll. I met with Unifor, and Mr. Speaker will continue to fight for these jobs.
The honourable member for Elgin St. Thomas.
When GM shut down the CAMI plans and laid off 1,200 workers, the industry minister claimed she was on it. She said she was demanding a full update from GM within 15 days and that she would offer transparency to Canadians. That was 39 days ago. No clarity, no plan, no relief for auto workers in Elgin, St. Thomas, and London, who this Liberal government told they would have their backs. When the Prime Minister was asked about standing up for Canadian jobs, he said, who cares? My question is to the industry minister. Does she?
Before Canadian jobs would be protected, before giving Stellantis billions of dollars in taxpayers' money. The Minister of Industry did not read it. The Deputy Minister for Industry and the past Deputy Minister of Industry did not read it. Finance Canada lawyers did not read it. They all pointed their fingers at the former Industry Minister, who is, of course, the Finance Minister now. So before giving billions in taxpayers' dollars for a project whose jobs are now fleeing to the U.S., did the Finance Minister read the contracts?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Mr. Speaker, not only did the entire team read it, but
has the minister seen the fully unredacted contract?
No.
Has Privy Council, has PCO seen this contract unredacted?
My sense is no, they would not have seen it.
So the previous deputy minister saw the contract?
Well, I'm assuming that. I don't know that for a fact.
What about legal? Like, obviously, there's some legal folks that would have to see it. Is there a legal department that would have seen this? You're telling me the legal team for a $15 billion contract doesn't see the entire contract?
You would have a lawyer sitting beside you, which would be normal for any other private company to have lawyers in the room when you're making these negotiations, because they're going to see those details.
We do not have legal sitting in with.
But you know what we read? We read what the Harper government did in 2009 when they bailed out GM and Chrysler at the time. And you know what we saw? We saw that there was no job protection in that deal. And so you know what we'll do now? We'll make sure that we fight for these jobs. We will make sure that we'll put maximum pressure, and they should stop just whining. They should just get on board and make sure.
Hey, welcome to the nap. Mic is on. Outstanding. I'm so glad you're here. I really appreciate all of you. I appreciate my subscribers and followers. And if you're here, please leave us a comment. The chat is open. We're streaming on 3 platforms, Rumble, X, and YouTube. This is the no answer period, the nap, where we cover the question period, prefaced by a review of, unfortunately, the far left evil that has beset our land and the events that surround it. The nap proceeds, the question period, when it occurs. Usually it's going to run a little later. Now, the Speaker of the House tries to get it under the proper time, but there's always statements by members that always run later. And I guess we're going to get right into it. By the way, comments drive the algorithm if you're watching this on repeat, and when I'm not driving the algorithm down with my words. So let's go straight into the first thing that we usually look at when we're doing this show. Is we are going to look at what's up with the Universal Ostrich Farms, and they have been doing some posts on their website, and it looks here like they've done a little interview with Mike Rudd, retired on the left there, and Daisy of Daisy Media on the right. We're just going to play you the first couple of minutes on this. Mike here is the fella who climbed the mountain to get all that footage that you saw of the ostriches after the slaughter was done by the Gestapo-aided Canadian Food Inspection Agency. So let's listen to what they have to say.
And thank you so much. I'm sure these two need no introduction, but just in case somebody's been living under a rock for the last, I don't know how long, we have Mr. Mike Rudd here. He is a military veteran, and he has a crusade, I guess, called the Rude Awakening Tour, where he's been going across Canada helping veterans with PTSD. But I'll let Mike.
Yeah, and then just talking about mefloquine, the drug that we took in, I took in Somalia in 1992 as part of a drug trial, which they never told us, and which we never signed any waivers. And then fast forwarded to 2019, a lawsuit was started against the federal government for making us take a drug that came with a lot of side effects, like 34 to be exact. So that started in 2019, so we're still in court. It's been 6 years, and mine was filed, I think, April 28th of 2019. So, and then it's driving around talking about that, talking to other veterans like Shane and stuff to mention about the drug and its side effects, which also, led to other things. It led to driving around aimlessly. So it's been it's been exciting, and all the people that we meet along the way are.
All right, so unless you don't know what Mike is talking about, I was in the forces at the time as well. I remember I was at 427 Tactical Helicopter Squadron. Back then, we operated the Twin Huey and the Kiowa. And our squadron was tasked to go on Roto Zero to Somalia and support his unit. And of course, our fellows ended up taking this mefloquine as well. And of course, with everything that happened with that and the suing and, people being forced to take it. And there were some not nice stories of people being held down and being forcibly injected. It was not a good time. Not a good time at all. Sorry about that. And then you think they would learn their lesson, but no. And then along comes the 2020 and the COVIDity stupidity. And the other drug he's talking about, of course, is the vaccine, right? Which leads us right into our next panel. Now, we talked yesterday. Well, I mentioned I read some released information from the FDA down in the States. Here's some more on this from Alex Berenson, someone who has also been covering how this entire adventure that Big Pharma pulled for profits through death. I have been writing about the risks of the mRNA, that's messenger ribonucleic acid, mRNA, posed to kids for almost 5 years. None of this is speculative. It's mostly from Pfizer and Moderna's own trials. The legacy media has simply refused to report it. And I read yesterday exactly what happened. They can't hide from what Vinay released Friday, though, and that's what I had read yesterday. More and more information keeps coming out. As you know, here in Canada, if you want to know who authorized the COVID-19 vaccine, we still don't know who did. We don't know. We don't know who was authorizing signature on this. Nobody wants to take responsibility. There were plenty of health ministers at the time running the health department. There's one now. She's no better than the character Dave in being there. If you've watched any of her press conferences or listened to her in Parliament, I swear she's an animatronic puppet with no thoughts of her own. And speaking of doctors who were mistreated because of the COVIDity stupidity, one of them was Dr. William Mackis in Alberta, who has left the province, who has been doing some cancer treatment trials. And of course, anything that goes against Big Pharma in Canada, well, you can't have that. So the medical board there stripped him of his medical license. I said, oh, screw you. Down to the States he goes, where they're doing some clinical trials with ivermectin and mebendazole to fight cancer, including pediatric cancer. It's all connected. It's all connected. So, if you haven't heard, apparently now Canada has been welcomed to SAFE. Yes, when like-minded partners join forces on security and defense in a turbulent world, our countries grow stronger, our industries benefit, and our citizens are safer. Indeed, that's what these National Socialist liberals have been pushing nonstop, isn't it? Oh, it's to keep you safe. Always to keep you safe. So what did they sign us to? Well, they released a joint statement, and there's a PDF link to it, and the PDF link is the same, word for word. Of course, this last paragraph here is really what it's about. Finally, SAFE will also provide vital support to Ukraine and increase the resiliency of the Ukraine defense industry. We have stood by Ukraine since the start of Russia's brutal war of aggression, and we continue to stand by its side as we work towards a just and lasting peace for Ukraine. I think it's about Ukraine. I think that's what this entire safe thing is. I mean, we've already sent $22 billion into the Ukraine laundry machine, and we don't know where that's going. So why not spend some more? That's why we sent Christopher Freeland over there, isn't it? Let's go to our next panel. Ah, yes. Pierre Polyev, Mr. Speaker, he says. Mark Carney's promise to negotiate a win with the U.S., another bait and switch. He handed Algoma $400 million with no job guarantees. And now, 1,000 steelworkers in Sault Ste. Marie have lost their jobs. This is an emergency that demands Parliament's attention. Yes, well, it's just yet another large group of job losses, week after week, month after month, that is going to continue under this anti-human government that we have running Canada. One that has pretty well made it impossible for industry and businesses to flourish and to want to work in Canada, so they're fleeing. And so are the workers that work in those industries. They're fleeing. And everything that the liberals are doing is just more socialism, more spending, and more pushing away industry and business with everything that they do. More to come, of course. You can read the entire statement here. But realistically, it's like in the video that you would have seen at the beginning if you watched the intro. They refuse in the House to acknowledge that they didn't read the contract. And we know they didn't read the contract. Just like they're not going to read this contract. Just like they're not going to read any other contract, unless, of course, it's making money for Brookfield. How are they getting away with it? Well, for the past 10 years, the Liberals have been doing everything to slice away at society and make it less and less what it was in 2015, which means safe, law-abiding, where criminals are arrested and actually stay in jail and you know, they keep them there, where the government isn't trying to crush your free speech, where they're not allowing miscreants to run around in the streets and cause assault and mayhem and not apply the law to them, right? So they've allowed mayhem to continue within society, and they passed legislation to make it even easier for those that are causing the mayhem to get released on bail and cause more mayhem. So it doesn't take a lot of guys to cause a lot of mayhem. A couple of miscreants running around can cause a whole lot of mayhem. You don't need a lot of people to do it at the same time. No. And of course, now with the liberal cultural Marxist ideology that has inculcated society, making it believe that when somebody says something you don't like, then you can interpret that as violence, which allows you to do violence upon them. Yes, that's how their twisted little brains work. That's why you end up with stories like this. So it's happening more and more in Montreal. You have this woman, a journalist, right? She's attacked again. Um, her name escapes me at the moment. And she, why are people feeling it's okay in Canada to physically assault other people and intimidate them in public? Because this is what's happening here. Look how she's surrounded, masked individuals, her own crew, her guys. They always have to go in there with security. I mean, who heard of journalists having to hire security just to do their job? Imagine if you decided to get into a well-known industry and in order to be out in the public, you had to have security all the time. That's kind of the thing, like if you're an unpopular politician. But in this case here, why are independent journalists who are not being funded by the government, who are not quality uh, Canadian journalism organization, I was almost going to say qualified controlled, it's qualified Canadian journalism organization industries that aren't reading the parroted script from the Liberal government every day on the news to tell people how to think, that are not repeating the word mega, mega, they're mega. No. Why are journalists being attacked in Canada? Why is this being allowed? Because a fish rots from the head down. What's happening is because the Liberals are allowing it to happen. Because the Liberals, they know their way to control is to cause chaos and then bring in authoritarian rules and legislation. Some of the chaos that's being unleashed in Canada. Here's from Larry Brock. On the Conservative side, a former prosecutor, member of Parliament, breaking another predator who never should have been free. Another preventable attack on our children. RCMP in Nova Scotia have charged a man with 10 child sexual abuse and exploitation offenses, including sexual interference, sexual assault, luring, and creating child sexual abuse material. What's worse? This perverted predator was already out on bail despite an existing undertaking and clear risk factors. And now, after the Supreme Court struck down mandatory minimum sentences for child sexual offenses, even the toughest penalties that should keep predators locked up are being stripped away. This is why Conservatives are fighting to end Canada's broken catch and release system. Canadians are sick and tired of watching their children's safety being gambled because Ottawa refuses to take violent and sexual offenders seriously. And we saw that. We saw that last Thursday in committee, and which I covered on live stream on Sunday with the 2 hours of Andrew Lawton in committee, basically resetting the agenda through a motion so that they can deal with actual crime like this instead of having to deal with what people are thinking and what people are saying. Oh, what people are saying online, it's so scary. We have to crush this hate speech that we disagree with, that we find offensive. That's their primary concern now, not dealing with the actual crime that they have unleashed in Canada. So, of course, the man who called the Bible clearly hateful just got promoted to Minister of Canadian Cultural and Identity. That's right, Mark Miller. It's really what the Carney government thinks of Canadian culture looks like, but I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. So they changed. They always start with the military first, right? Because the military can't fight back. The military doesn't have a union. The military is under orders. They're under two acts of legislation when it comes to a legal framework, the National Defense Act, and the legal act that the rest of the civilians have to deal with. So they have two forms of laws that they have to fall under. Not a lot that they can say or do. They're told to do something, they got to do. So what do? The first thing in the military is they start to go in there and they start changing the policy, making it anti-Christian. First, what they do is they attack all the religions, right? So the first thing they did is they said to the Padres, doesn't matter what denomination you are, you cannot pray. You're not allowed to pray. Oh, you can say a message that is diverse and inclusive of all faiths and everyone in society, but we don't want to hear your prayers. So last year, people were losing their freaking minds. And so they gave them an exemption and allowed the Padres to pray in public. Imagine that. They allowed a priest to pray in public. So, but this year they didn't give them that exemption. So if you heard anybody doing a prayer that was up on a cenotaph, then they would not have been a military Padre because they're disallowed. They're disallowed from praying. So without any pushback there, they're like, well, let's just keep going. So they ignored all the churches being burned down. We actually have a member of parliament that says, oh, it's a conspiracy theory that over 100 churches burned down. I don't know what they're talking about. They allow the Islamic hate-filled mobs to continue to terrorize the Jews in large city centers. And then they use that as an excuse to bring in this kind of legislation. So, oh, it's not just Christian verses; it's all verses. We just there's already laws that covers this. These people are not hiding, and there's a reason why they're going after Christians. There's a reason why they're going after Christians because Christians believe in the truth. They believe in freedom of expression. They believe in love and not hate. But these people have to manipulate people through hate. So if you point out the fact that they're using hate to manipulate you, then they'll call you a conspiracy theorist and then attack your religion. Carney cabinet shuffle. Mark Miller named new cultural minister. So I had to put this up here because here's Mark Miller talking about himself in the third person. Yeah, that's him. So Andrew, now we know why the Liberals wanted to ram Bill C9 through without scrutiny. They made a deal with the Bloc to prosecute people for quoting scripture. So yes, they have a deal with the Bloc to pass that part of the bill. But I wonder about the other parts. Now, Andrew did put in that motion last Thursday, and I guess let's go look at Parlview. Was the Justice Committee sitting today? Let's just have a look. Here we go. Standing Committee on Government Operations, House Affairs, National Security. Well, the National Security one is sitting. Oh, not started. Veterans Affairs, Citizenship, Immigration, Fisheries, National Defense. No, doesn't look like they're sitting today. But they have stated their intention. So I don't know. I don't know if that means that the Bloc will vote against Andrew's motion that he put in last Thursday to reset the agenda so that they can tackle actual crime and not tackle what people say that might offend somebody firsthand, because that apparently seems to be the Liberals' number one priority here, is just shutting everybody up, just controlling what they say in public. Don't you dare! Don't you dare say that! Or else we'll make you a political prisoner. Here's the National Post. Liberal deal with Bloc means hate speech laws will lose exemption for sincerely held religious belief. Now, of course, it's strange that the Liberals won't apply the same deeply held religious belief to their climate cult. Because really, it is a religion. It's a cult. When you start pointing out the differences between the data set that they're using to build their policy and reality, then they call you a denialist. Well, hang on a sec. That sounds like a religion to me, right? Because I'm running around as a Christian saying, the power of Christ compels me, and you must believe in God, and then you don't, and then that's religious fervor, isn't it? Right? But if you're running around telling me that carbon dioxide is going to kill the planet, and I know it's a noble gas, and you can increase the percentage by tenfold and still be able to breathe normally, and of course you never would. Right? And all the data shows that the Earth actually it does the opposite, right? As it warms, the CO2 increases afterwards. It's not the other way around. So it's kind of weird that this religion of climate cult probably won't be treated the same way when it comes to sincerely held religious beliefs, especially since the climate cult is very anti-human. Driving a policy that makes everyone poor, taxes them, like the scourge of climatology, taxes them on everything that they do, right? It dictates where they can move, how much they can live, how much energy they can do. It's going to dictate when and where they can eat. Geez, it's almost like a religion. Very interesting. It appears Garnet Janice, some of you had hoped Mark J. Carney would be less hostile. Let's just listen quickly to what it says.
Some of you had hoped that Mark Carney would be less hostile to faith communities than Justin Trudeau. Unfortunately, yesterday's events reveal decisively that his government will be, if anything, worse on issues important to faith communities than Justin Trudeau was. Yesterday, it came out, and Liberals admitted this, that they had cut a deal with the Bloc to make Bill C9, their anti-free speech bill, even worse. The change that they're going to make to that bill is to add criminalization of the reading of certain religious scriptures. The Liberals cut a deal with the Bloc to amend their anti-free speech bill C9 to include this attack on fundamental religious freedom to read and share religious.
It's communism. It's pure fucking communism, right? What, you're gonna have your bureaucrat going through the pages? Oh, this is allowed. No, this is not allowed. Yeah. Oh no, this could be problematic. No, can't read that in public. No, this is fucking insane. What the? I think it falls in closely into. Well, Michelle pretty well says the same thing. And here, my buddy over at Blazing Cat Fur, who's very, very nice to me. He hosts me every Friday on his website, where we have Blazing Cat Fur Fridays at 9 o'clock in the morning, where we do a cold read through of the page. And of course, he's good with his heart as well. Liberal deal, Bloc means hate speech. And if, nice little Nazi dagger, nice little National Socialist dagger going right through the Bible. This is the enemy. And he was nice enough to post one of my videos. Is this Jamil? I knew I wanted that. Ah, yes. Let's listen to Jamil here. This is very well in keeping. So why are they so anti-Christian? I mentioned before, right? Because we prefer to move things along with love, because you attract more flies with honey, right, than you do with vinegar, instead of hate. Hate is evil. That's what the Liberals use to manipulate people. But the other thing about love is acceptance and caring for other people. And caring for them means that when somebody is inconvenient to you, is that you help them. You just don't put them down like a dog.
I'm well. Good to see you again. You're looking great today. New haircut? Yeah. We have the same So I just want to ask a simple question of, do you believe, broadly speaking, that doctors, regardless of religion and regardless of topic, should doctors have the right to deny legally available medical services to their patients on religious grounds? And if you do believe that, my second question would be, why would expecting said doctors to provide said legally available services, why would that be persecution in your eyes? Thank you.
Thanks for the question. So I just want to point out a linguistic sort of trick that you did, whether you did it intentionally or not.
Oh.
You took a situation where a hospital is being threatened by the government for not killing a person or offering them the ability to be killed. Mm-hmm. And you are now saying that it is the hospital or the doctor forcing someone else to not do something. That's not what's happening. What's happening is the government is saying to doctors and nurses and other healthcare professionals, they will fire you and cause you to lose your livelihood if you're not willing to participate in euthanasia. That is wrong. And it is my belief that religious freedom is a constitutional right in this country, and you should not have your job threatened, especially if you work in healthcare, for not wanting to offer someone euthanasia. That's my belief.
And I do agree.
To be very clear.
However, I would wait, as a counterpoint, I would ask, has there ever been any recorded instances with the expansion of MAID that there have been doctors threatened with losing their livelihoods because they do not want to provide MAID on religious grounds?
Yes, there are multiple examples. Primarily, they function as a complaint system within the College of Physicians, where if people refuse to engage in the practice, a complaint can be made against them, and they can be found to be violating their ethical responsibilities as doctors. I don't think it's ethical to say to someone they have to participate in euthanasia against their will. And they should have the right to say, I am not going to take my patient and bring them to a lineup to be killed. That is a right that they should be able to have. Now, but this is the reason why I said it's a linguistic trick is because I believe, and this is the point I made in the video that you're referencing, is that it is persecution and abuse of state power for the government to deny religious freedom to people on the basis of their occupation. If you are a doctor or a nurse or a healthcare professional, you have a right to be a Christian if you want to be. And the government doesn't get to take that from you. And that is my point. There's a court case going through the process right now where a hospital is making precisely this argument because the government is threatening them. This is what's happening in our country right now. The government, Ned said it earlier, the government wants to be your mommy and your daddy. They want to tell you what you can do and what you can't do. And I believe we need strong people, strong citizens, strong families, and strong communities so the government doesn't get to push people around. And that's what's happening in this abuse of state power. Doctors should not have their livelihoods threatened because they don't want to kill somebody. That's what I believe.
We saw that with the COVIDity stupidity, right? Canadians didn't stand up then, and this has allowed them and emboldened the Liberal Party to continue to do anything it wants and got away with murder, absolute murder. People passed away from taking that injection, but nobody's being held accountable. Nobody knows who authorized it, so nobody can be held accountable. I could hear something there. I had to shut that off. Well, the Hans Gruber of climate change, as Kate over at Small Than Animals, a really good website if you ever want to, again, look for another news aggregate. That's where one of my favorite phrases of all time comes from. Waiting for the asteroid. Well, Hans Gruber here, Stephen Guilbeault admits that the Liberal government's climate goals are unachievable. Unachievable after spending more than $200 billion on unrealistic targets. It's a sad reality of politics that cabinet ministers can only tell the truth once they are out of cabinet. Well, one thing's for sure, they can't even tell the truth in cabinet, outside a question period, in the House. Never, never. And even then, but if a liar is telling you the truth, how do you know he's telling you the truth when he's always been a liar? And cycle capital, I think, is the next thing that he needs to deal with all that weird funding of Canadian money that went into his cycle capital company. Still need some answers for that, Monsieur Gruber. Well, Bill C2, which is another bill, because all bills coming in from the Liberals are authoritarian bills or have something in there snuck in. Let's police, ask your doctor if they provide you services. That's another trick that the Marxists do, right? Is they, aside from taking away and stripping away every single bit of your privacy that you have, is that they can intimidate every aspect of your social support program and take that away. So now you have to second guess yourself. It's bad enough in Canada's censorship today that they're finally achieving what they wanted is self-censorship, where people are just now afraid to say certain things because they know it might get them into trouble for purely ideological reasons, again being pushed by the Liberals with their cultural Marxist ideology. People are afraid to speak their minds. So now this will make them afraid to speak their minds or say anything to their doctor. Because now the government will have access to every single thing in their life. Isn't that interesting? Shouldn't it be the other way around? Shouldn't citizens have access to every single thing that the government is doing since they're taking your money? That seems to be the problem. We can't get the government to disclose documents. We can't get them to even answer orders in Parliament to properly provide documents, something the Liberals have been very bad at doing, something that caused the Speaker of the House, again, last year in June, not this year, the year last year, to say you can't conduct any business in a lower house until you provide the SDTC documents that you have redacted, all 5,000 pages. Now provide them. And they're like, no, not going to do that. No. So they didn't. So there was no business, thank God, because that held up Bill 263. But of course, the El Bozos brought them back in after their disinformation campaign, where they basically stole the election. Got a video on that, but I don't think we'll have time to watch it. By lying to everybody. And now, of course, they've basically took T263, spread it apart, and then threw little bits of it here and there and all their other little bills. Let's listen to Dr. Strauss.
Bill C2 includes a provision allowing the police to ask a doctor without a warrant if their services had ever been used by an individual. This is reprehensible. I am a physician. It frankly offends me, not just as a Canadian, not just as a person, but it offends my whole profession. It violates not just our Charter of Rights, but the Hippocratic Oath. If a member opposite or their child went to see a doctor who specializes in addictions or mental health or sexually transmitted diseases or reproductive medicine, on what possible planet would they think it was appropriate for the police to ask that physician to disclose their child as a client?
I'm going to give you a parallel. In the aircraft world, at least in the Air Force, right? They all have safety on the civilian side as well. But basically, if there's an aircraft incident, a crash, something like that, there's going to be a flight safety investigation. And Canada has applied its flight safety investigations differently than the United States, in that whatever is brought up from a flight safety investigation cannot be used by an investigative team to find fault, right? Because the whole purpose of the flight safety investigation is to learn what caused the accident, to learn from that accident, and then from that, further increase the flight safety program. Because we always ask, hey, why do you do that? Why do you do this? It's usually because somebody died and there was a lesson learned, and then now we do it that way. So when it comes to the flight safety program, it's very important for people to be, well, open about everything that happened during the incident so that the flight safety investigation can be complete. Well, this is kind of like the same thing. That would mean that there would be no flight safety investigation. People are not going to open up because they know that anything they say now can be used against them. And there goes your flight safety program. Same thing with here. There goes people's health care, because what are they going to disclose to their doctor? What are they going to be afraid to disclose to their doctor? Are they going to have to lie to their doctor about certain things happening in their life so they can't give the doctor a proper ability to diagnose them? But it doesn't matter anyway, because Canada can't afford to have doctors anymore. That's why they're all fleeing. That's why we're too busy actually training doctors from other countries and then sending them back, as we found out in the House of Commons last week. And we still got plenty of time. Let's listen to this woke, incoherent liberal. And what makes this video even funnier is that the question was asked by a liberal to their woke department head. And I don't know. If you can tell me what the definition of what it is they're trying to get the definition is at the end of this, you're a better man than me, Charlie Brown.
Despite the bill passing into law, many Canadians don't understand exactly what environmental racism means. And in fact, there's a report for Nova Scotia that hasn't yet been made public that is with officials there now. Can one of you please explain the value of this law to protecting the health of Canadians and what environmental racism means?
Sure, yeah. At a really high level, environmental, or the Act is designed to help ensure that Canada avoids instances of environmental racism and works to prevent those occurring and to address instances that or occurrences that are there. You did ask for a bit of a definition of what environmental racism is. It's essentially the connection between instances of it's the intersection between sociological and other factors and instances of adverse environmental conditions.
What?
Yeah, so an example would be, perpetually citing landfills adjacent to certain communities over other communities, right? Which has happened in Nova Scotia. Can you provide this committee with an update on the status of the federal?
This is insane. Oh, So that was a clip from Canadian Capital Clips. If you're not subscribed to his channel, please do. He covers all the committees, all the everything that goes on in Parliament, and he puts out these clips all the time. And I'm so glad that he put this particular clip out because I've always wondered, what the hell is environmental racism? You know, I've been streaming now since April. I did a gardening show channel thing for 126 straight days, every single day having an episode out of the garden growing. Right, I'm out there in the environment. There's some other videos at the same time, some other recipes and canning and stuff. But you know, it's all the time out there. I'm starting to think when I'm looking at that squirrel in my backyard, and he's looking at me and says, "Is he thinking I'm racist? Is he thinking I am an environmental racist?" I wish I could tell him because I have no idea what the definition is at this point. No idea at all. Oh, I see Cheryl Gallant is up doing a statement, and but they're not starting just yet. 2 more minutes to go, but I doubt they'll be on time. So let's listen to the beginning of this MOU discussion here because it's a head turner.
Thank you, Minister, for finally appearing. I see that you're found time to be at the Finance Committee on October 20th, but took your time to get here. Minister, the recent MOU signed with Alberta suggested the immediate suspension of the clean electricity regulations. It wasn't in the Gazette this weekend. When will it come into effect?
Okay, so the clean electricity regulations are in effect now, but only begin applying in 2035. They were intentionally given as a long tail for all provinces and territories to be able to work towards
2035?
Yeah, if you look at the way the regulation is drafted, in 2035, that is when they begin to apply.
When will it be published?
So what I'm saying is, in the Memorandum of Understanding, the wording is that I have with the province of Alberta, or we have with the province of Alberta until April 1st to negotiate an agreement where they can show that they have a pathway to meet the objectives of the regulation.
Okay, so all of this is still under heavy negotiation?
It's right in, I can read you the exact wording of the agreement.
So we should presume no elements of this MOU will survive or could survive, or everything is up for negotiation?
What I would tell you is that with all provinces, I have the ability to negotiate a pathway to meet the objectives of a regulation. And I think it's a really amazing thing that Alberta is going to sit down and do that negotiation.
So you suggested earlier in your opening remarks that there was a climate cost of food, yet the industrial carbon tax is still applied to fertilizer production, grain drying, farm equipment, etc. And you've made great speeches in the House to the effect that this is not a tax, has no impact on food prices. Isn't that an oxymoron? I mean, like that's ridiculous. You say there's a cost of food for all these other things, but yet you're taxing the means of production of food, and it doesn't impact the price at the grocery store. Can you explain that, please?
Yeah, I mean, I can even provide the studies to this committee if you want. Absolutely. There are studies time and time again, in fact, that say that the industrial carbon price does not increase the cost of food.
So then what does it impact? Is it just impact the viability of farms, and so farms get smaller?
No, it does. It's actually...
So farms consolidate to bigger farms?
Small farms aren't impacted by the industrial carbon price.
They're not impacted by it all, so the carbon taxes that I'm paying as a producer are what, imaginary?
The industrial carbon price applies to large industry. It applies in different ways in different parts of our country. I pay
carbon tax on the electricity and the equipment and the fertilizer that I use to run my farm. And you say that's imaginary?
I would love to see how you're breaking that down, but what I am telling you...
With real dollars.
You wouldn't have a line, sir, that says anywhere industrial carbon price.
Because it's hidden, yeah, but the price has gone up on everything.
It's not hidden. It's not that. I'm just saying I don't see where you're seeing it.
Minister, to the next question, are you constitutionally impaired from saying the word oil pipeline?
That's actually a very funny question. Does it matter to you if what words I use?
I appreciate the hilarity of it. You know, you said that there was a lot of discussion about the pipeline, but pipeline is a binary thing. It's either we build a pipeline or we don't. There's no middle ground. Do you support a pipeline?
I support our provinces working together if they want to work together. No, but that is what the Memorandum of Understanding with Alberta is
Ultimately,
about.
it leads to a pipeline or no pipeline, one or the other. Do you support a pipeline?
I support that if the provinces and
They really are infuriating, aren't they? Absolutely infuriating. So here you have Brexty, who has a farm, right? And he's telling her straight to her face, the fees that you people have imposed have driven the price of everything up, and that price is being transferred to the people buying my stuff, which means food is more expensive. I don't believe you. We have studies that show otherwise. This is just like communism. In Soviet Russia, they used to have this scientist called Lysenko. And he said, I will manipulate the genetics of wheat and we will create a new plentiful wheat that will feed the world. We will have so much food. We will feed everybody and, the communist peasants and everyone else. Well, it turns out he was full of shit. He made it all up. It was all based on ideology. It was all based on feelings. He felt that it was going to happen. Well, it never did, and people starved to death. Lysenkoism. Everything the liberals do is like Lysenkoism. And the House is sitting. So let us go straight to question period. Here, just started the talk, so we shouldn't have to go back too far.
Mr. Speaker, I think it's bad enough that this Prime Minister has appointed a minister from the Trudeau years who ruined our immigration system and increased the cost of living. But this same minister this morning, the one responsible for heritage, says that he's had it. Says that he has had it with the decline of the French language. We're not fed up with it. We want to defend the French language. All those Liberal members, well, are they tired of someone who wants to defend French language and culture? The Right Honourable Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, the government has immigration under control. May I continue? Asylum seekers, the numbers have fallen by 1/3, and we will defend the French language with the greatest investments ever in the cultural sector. Mr. Speaker, the question had to do with the statement by his new minister who said he had had it. He was fed up with the debate on the decline of the French language. The Prime Minister's answer shows that we should all be worried about the decline of the French language. Why is it that among all Liberal members of Parliament, he has chosen to appoint someone who's fed up with defending the French language and Quebec culture? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I am for my new minister. I am against the leader of the official opposition, who is against our action plan for the French language, $4 billion. He's against the investments in the Quebec cultural sector. He is against the increase in Francophone immigrants to Canada. We defend the French language.
Leader of the opposition. Mr. Speaker, we learned today that 8 months after the Prime Minister was elected, promising to build nation-building projects at speeds not seen in generations, he hasn't even begun consulting with First Nations people about his promised pipeline to the Pacific. And now the Assembly of First Nations has condemned his plan because he hasn't done any consulting with them. Today he will address the Assembly Will he for once say one thing to no matter who the group he's speaking to, be clear that he wants the pipeline to get built and that he'll get the consultations done to make it happen?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the great thing about Hansard is you can consult it and find out what the member opposite said last week. In effect, would we ram through a pipeline? No, never. No, never. We will consult free, prior informed consent with First Nations. We will work with the province of British Columbia. We have conditions in the MOU with Alberta. We know how to work with the provinces. We know how to consult. We know how to respect. Does the member opposite?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Transcripts are great things, and he just renamed Justin Trudeau's immigration minister to cabinet, the guy who destroyed our immigration system and helped double the housing costs in this country. And that minister has now had something to say about this Prime Minister's failure to consult on pipelines. He said the consultation should have started yesterday, and it can't be done on a desktop, making reference to his fellow minister's promise that they would do consultations by Zoom. So why is it that he didn't start 8 months ago consulting First Nations? Is it because he doesn't care what they have to say, or because he just doesn't want the pipeline to get built?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I recognize this situation is very, very complicated for the member opposite. That's right. First off, you have to have a pipeline project. You have to have a private proponent. In order for that to happen, we had to create the conditions precedent. We have now done that because we talk to the provinces. We work with the provinces. Mr. Speaker, in the Building Canada Act, which was passed before the member opposite returned to this House, we set out the consultation process for nation-building projects.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
So he's broken his promise to get big projects built, and now we learn that he has broken his promise to get houses built. He promised during the election he would double home building to 500,000 units per year. Today, the Parliamentary Budget Officer revealed that his brand new bureaucracy will only build 5,000 homes per year. 99% less than he promised, Mr. Speaker, after Conservatives built well over 200,000 homes at half the cost today. Why won't he listen to us and stop building bureaucracy so that we can start building homes?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the great thing about being a lifelong member of Parliament is you've never built anything and you don't know numbers.
True.
And you don't. Units, 130,000 a unit. That is what we're doing, Mr. Speaker.
Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the only thing that member built when he was the governor of the Bank of England was the housing crisis in that country. And then he built a tax haven in the Caribbean so he wouldn't have to pay the same taxes he imposes on the Canadian people. Our youth need homes, jobs, and hope. This Prime Minister only offers them broken promises and more sacrifices. He even held a photo op in front of a house that was dismantled after he left it. So here we have a Prime Minister whose houses disappear after he announces them and promises disappear after he makes them.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the House in that announcement was sent to Nunavut. Nunavut is one of the territories of this great country. Nunavut is more than just a place where you fly in, make a photo op, don't speak to the Premier of Nunavut. Nunavut is where we are building 700 houses under Build Canada homes. Houses that are cheaper, houses that are more efficient, houses that work.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, last Thursday, the Prime Minister announced an agreement with Alberta, which is a problem in many ways. I want to ask the government I asked the government if it would commit irrevocably to not do anything in British Columbia without the express consent of British Columbia and First Nations. The answer was yes. But yet the announcement was made. Now, what is it? No, please be careful with the language you use. This is not outside the rules, but it might provoke a certain reaction, and one reaction can lead to another, and the two reactions can provoke disorder. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We respect provincial rights and jurisdiction. We respect British Columbia. It is absolutely clear in the Memorandum of Understanding that we and the province of Alberta will work together with British Columbia. We need an agreement for a pipeline. The Honourable Member. Now, when you want the agreement of one party to an agreement, you invite them right away, because the agreement the Prime Minister signed will apply even without British Columbia. So will the Prime Minister recognize that he has not respected what he said in the House, that he didn't show great respect for the truth when he signed this agreement? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, this was not a contract. This was a memorandum of understanding. And this has to do with conditions that are sufficient, but they are necessary. It is not the end of a process. It is the beginning of a process with Alberta, with British Columbia, and above all, a process with Indigenous peoples. The Honourable Member for Berry-Chambly. It's a piece of paper that he signed and which creates obligations. It is a contract. He can call it whatever he likes, in whatever language he likes. Given what is at stake with the moratorium on tankers, given issues with greenhouse gases, given the absence of an agreement with First Nations who voted against this agreement this morning, does the Prime Minister not think he should make sure that all parties should be able to sign this free, prior, and informed consent? The Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, this is a memorandum of understanding with commitments, with great investments that Alberta will make in carbon capture. The industrial carbon tax, 6 times greater. And also we are tightening rules in other areas.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, you can't build homes if you run out of the House.
Right.
And that's what the Prime Minister is doing right now.
Wow, the Prime Minister ran out. Too afraid.
The Leader of the Opposition knows that that is very close to the line, and his colleagues know that there's no singing in the House. So anyway, the Honourable Leader has the floor now.
Mr. Speaker, it's very sad the Prime Minister does not want to debate how we get homes for our youth. Our young people deserve homes, jobs, and hope. He was feeling very cocky a few minutes ago until he worried that I might present him with the facts. That the Parliamentary Budget Officer revealed today that his new housing bureaucracy will build only 5,000 homes per year, which is barely 1% of the 500,000 homes that he promised during the election. Construction is falling off the cliff. Why won't the Prime Minister stand in this House and debate it?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, for the record, the Prime Minister is doing his job, and now he's off to speak with the Assembly of First Nations, doing the job of the Prime Minister of Canada, not standing in this House doing quippy quips for Twitter.
We don't know when that now is, really, right? Because it's not necessarily talking about the present, but it's at some point now is a large concept. So the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Now the Prime Minister could be debating. He's got plenty of time.
I thought the Honourable Member was done. He wasn't done. Sorry, apologize.
As I was saying, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is doing his job and off to give an address and consult with the Assembly of First Nations, not doing quippy quips for Twitter with the Leader of the Opposition, which I know he would very much like to do, as he likes to obstruct, obfuscate, and as he's shown earlier in question period, not have a single handle on a single fact about a single indicator about life in this country.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Let's speak about indicators then. I'm going to quote the Parliamentary Budget Officer. Build Canada Homes, the Prime Minister's program, is presented as part of the government's efforts to double the pace of housing construction over the next decade. That said, the government has not yet laid out an overall plan to achieve this goal. We anticipate that the contribution of Build Canada Homes will likely be modest, and estimate that the program will add about 26,000 units over 5 years, representing 2.1% increase in housing completions, not the 100% increase the Prime Minister promised. Was this just another bait and switch?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, if the member opposite took the time to actually read the report, he would discover that the Parliamentary Budget Officer stated this will build 86,000 homes, affordable homes across Canada. This is the initial investment. I know it's hard for the Conservatives to understand. We're going in phases here. The initial phase is $13 billion, which they voted against in the budget. They're doing nothing to build homes, which matches the opposition leader's record in the past of 6 homes. So,
the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
That minister was literally the mayor of the city that became the most expensive housing market in all of North America. More expensive than New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, and now he brags that not only will they only build about 2% of the homes that they promised during the election, but they're spending $13 billion to do it, Mr. Speaker. Failing is bad. Failing expensively is even worse. So rather than having the costly mayor stand up and answer for him, will the Prime Minister have the courage to answer for himself? Where are the homes he promised?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, I'm so proud of the City of Thunder Bay, who just passed through their council.
The Minister may begin from the top.
Mr. Speaker, all across the country, municipalities are stepping up to make new housing available for some of the most vulnerable people in our community. Take the City of Thunder Bay, who just last night, through their council, approved a motion to free up surplus city land for 1,400 homes, facilitated by the Housing Accelerator Fund, Mr. Speaker. That's the work of a government who's behind communities, who's behind people. And here's what we can say about the Conservatives. They vote against the very people that need that help. Mr. Speaker, we're building Canada strong with municipalities like the municipality marathon is here today.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the member for pointing out that we have voted against every single program that doubled housing costs in Canada. This Prime Minister created the biggest housing crisis in the G7 when he was the Bank of England governor. And now he's come here to adopt the same Trudeau-era policies of building bureaucracies rather than building homes. And he promised this was all going to change, that the latest bureaucracy would change everything. But today, the parliamentary budget officer proved that he'll only build 2% of what he promised. Why does this Prime Minister block homes and break promises?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, it's rich for the Leader of the Opposition to speak about this. As we all know, when he was Housing Minister and I was the Mayor of Vancouver, he built 6 homes as a Housing Minister. That's a deplorable record. And it's deplorable that the members opposite won't support a budget that has $13 billion for affordable housing, that the Parliamentary Budget Officer states will build 86,000 affordable homes. You won't vote for that, you won't support affordable housing, and that matches your historical record.
Again, through the chair, please. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, it was 200,000 homes, and the average cost of buying one was $450,000, Mr. Speaker. The average rent for a one-bedroom was $900. This government came along and built bureaucracy to block homes and printed money to inflate their costs. They allowed mass immigration that was out of control, that ballooned demand, and left us with the worst and most expensive housing anywhere in the G7. And today, the Parliamentary Budget Officer blew the lid off their latest promises, showing that they will build about almost none of the homes that they actually promised in the last election. Why won't the Prime Minister stand in the House and take account for that?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the lid's been blown off, but the lid's been blown off the tired lines of the Leader of the Opposition, which he's been using for 2 years. He has systematically stood in the way of investments in supportive, in social, in low-cost and low-income housing in this country throughout his exclusive 20-year career in this House of Commons. He has systematically stood in the way of supports like dental care, like child care, like the Canadian Child Benefit, like school nutrition, the very things that he fakes and pretends to care about in this House, but would vote against, and Canadians know he would vote against everything with care in the name, Mr. Speaker. He needs to...
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, it is impossible for us to vote against affordable housing because there is no affordable housing after 10 years of this Liberal government. Now, one positive idea we could all agree on is to reduce the cost of the steel, the concrete, the cement, the glass that goes into building homes. But unfortunately, this Liberal government has an industrial carbon tax whose stated purpose is to raise the cost of all of those things. Why won't they accept this positive idea to take taxes off home building so that our youth can finally have homes, jobs, and hope like they deserve?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Yesterday it was distressing to see member of parliament after member of parliament from the Conservative side vote against and argue against relieving consumers of the price of carbon, which we have, as you know, in this bill in front of the House promised to do, which they voted against. Mr. Speaker, they will vote against a tax cut for 22 million Canadians. Mr. Speaker, something again that Conservatives like to talk about, lower taxes, but in actuality fight against. So who are they really fighting for, Mr. Speaker? Because it sure isn't the Canadians or the Conservatives I'm talking to in Thunder Bay Superior North.
Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the industrial carbon tax is not just a tax on homes, it's a tax on food. When you tax the steel that goes into farm equipment and the fertilizer that is necessary to grow food, when you tax the food processor, you tax the food. No wonder that since this Prime Minister took office, food prices have increased roughly 40% faster in Canada than they have in the United States. Canadians deserve affordable, nutritious, delicious food on their plate. Will the Prime Minister stand up now and agree to get rid of the industrial carbon tax so that Canadians can afford to eat?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Here we go again, Mr. Speaker. Here we go again with the imaginary taxes. And as my colleague just said, when presented with the opportunity to vote for a tax cut for every single income taxpayer in this country, they say no. When they get a chance to vote to cut the GST, to remove it on the GST for first-time homebuyers, they say no. When they get the chance to vote for the removal of the consumer carbon tax, what do the Conservatives say? No, Mr. Speaker. When the time comes to vote to give Canadians a break, what do the Conservatives say? No.
L'honorable député.
The honourable member for La Pointe de l'Île. Mr. Speaker, the new Minister of Official Languages.
L'honorable.
The honourable member for La Pointe de l'Île. Mr. Speaker, the new Minister for Official Languages is already fed up with his mandate. Now, he's saying when people say that French is in decline, well, he doesn't seem to care, even though Montreal is becoming more English-speaking. For him, the defense of French is a boring subject which only xenophobic Quebecers complain about. Why did the Prime Minister appoint such a person as Minister responsible for official languages? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I went to grade school and high school and CEGEP, all in French. I did my degree, my BA in French, and I have raised my children in 3 languages, including French. I adore the French language, and I will defend that beautiful language till the end of my days. The honourable member for Drummond. Mr. Speaker, the minister really should be fed up with the fact that Quebec is just twiddling its thumbs when it comes to defending French. He should be fed up with the fact that fewer Quebecers can listen to music in French, fewer Quebecers can read in French, can see shows in French, because our language is threatened. Now, is the minister fed up for the right reasons? The honourable minister. Mr. Speaker, what I deplore is politicizing this beautiful language. I know that the Bloc cares about French, but what I'm asking is that they join with us, all members who care about French, and that they support our strategy. For the first time in our history is putting over $1 billion into defending French, and I will do so to the end of my days.
The honourable member for Parry Sound Muskoka.
CTV reports that 35,000 households have left the GTA last year because the cost of housing is simply too expensive. The Missing Middle Initiative reported yesterday that Ontario's housing engine has stalled. In the GTA, pre-construction sales for condos are down 89%, and for ground-oriented homes, they're down 65%. That means starts have fallen off a cliff, and it means it's going to be worse in 2026. So my question, Mr. Speaker, is when the Prime Minister told young Canadians that they would have to sacrifice, was he really referring to the dream of home ownership?
The Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Mr. Speaker, we obviously face challenges in Ontario and the GTA in particular around housing starts. And that's exactly why we've got Build Canada Homes launched. That's exactly why we're investing in affordable housing at an unprecedented scale. That's exactly why we brought forward the first-time home buyers GST tax cut, which the members opposite have stalled since June. Mr. Speaker, we need to take action. We are taking action on this House. The Conservatives are voting against action on affordable housing.
So true.
Honourable member for Parry Sound Muskoka.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's 4th housing bureaucracy, Build Canada Homes, replaces Justin Trudeau's life-changing national housing strategy with less money and even bigger promises. We need 480,000 homes per year in the next 10 years to restore affordability, but the Parliamentary Budget Officer reports Build Canada Homes will only build about 26,000 over the next 5. So why won't the Prime Minister listen to home builders, housing experts, the Leader of the Opposition, and axe the tax on all homes under $1.3 million?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Mr. Speaker, well, we've had a lot of engagement with the house building, the home building industry, with mayors, with ministers. We've done an enormous amount of effort. Members opposite can go out and talk to people in the community, home builders that we're working with, who are supporting Build Canada Homes. We've just launched and opened the portal for that. The parliamentary budget officers, 87,000 homes will be built as part of this initial effort. And the national housing strategy starts again in these years ensuing. It's a combination that will deliver affordable housing at an unprecedented scale. Thank you.
The honourable member for Terra Nova, the Peninsulas.
This Liberal government promised billions in housing spending, but today the Parliamentary Budget Office exposed that this program is exactly like the last four, an absolute failure. This is just another example of these Liberals promising the same old things and never delivering. Their new housing program is only supposed to get 26,000 homes built in 5 years, only a fraction of the 2.5 million promised. How will this Prime Minister tell this horrible news to young people? Will he simply ask them to make more sacrifices?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
Mr. Speaker, I think it's very important for me to point out that my colleague in the opposition from Newfoundland and Labrador has voted against every opportunity to help Canadians. Housing, food, school program, $10 a day childcare, dental care, on and on and on. This is nothing but a circle of tired notes. We need to work together. Canadians want us to work together, and I'll tell my colleague, Newfoundlanders and Labradorians want to see results.
The honourable member for Richmond Hill South.
You should be able to work hard, save your money, and buy a reasonably priced home in a reasonable timeline. That was the Canadian promise. But today, the Parliamentary Budget Watchdog confirmed this Liberal Prime Minister has broken that promise. The report says the Liberals' brand new housing bureaucracy is nothing more than a shiny billion-dollar photo op machine, building only 26,000 homes in 5 years. That's barely 2% of the 1.25 million homes promised. And worse, the report says this Liberal government has no plan whatsoever to achieve their own target. So instead of lecturing young Canadians about sacrifice, why don't this Liberal Prime Minister just admit that he bulldozed the dream of home ownership, buried it under bureaucracy, and walked away with a shovel?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Labour.
I'm speaking very fast, so I couldn't keep up with the question, but I do want to say one thing. Canadians elected us to do big things, Mr. Speaker, and we are going to build a stronger economy, a stronger country. We're making the largest infrastructure investment in Canadian history. That party voted against it. We are going to be building roads and bridges, community centres, hospitals, and transit, Mr. Speaker, using Canadian steel and Canadian lumber. But the Conservatives voted against all of that, Mr. Speaker, every single part of it, against housing and against major projects, opportunities for Canadian workers, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the House, we'll keep building. We're going to be standing with our workers, unlike the Conservatives.
The Honourable Member for Montmorency-Charlevoix. Mr. Speaker, this morning, housing networks in Quebec told me that they are very concerned. There is a great deal of demand for affordable housing, but instead we're getting more bureaucracy. The Parliamentary Budget Officer has also confirmed that the Liberal promise of 250,000 homes will only lead to 26,000. That's 10 times less. In my riding, the average price of housing has gone from $205,000 to $400,000 under this Liberal government. The Prime Minister said young people would have to make sacrifices. Perhaps he's asking them to sacrifice their dream of owning a home. Is that it? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. It's remarkable to hear a Conservative member talk about affordable housing. In all my years in politics, I've never heard a single housing organization praise the Conservative Party. On the contrary, they've always voted against investing in social and affordable housing. And that's when they're not actually criticizing the entire concept. On this side of the House, we've invested $13 billion to build affordable housing like never before. Thank you.
Member for Burnaby Central.
Mr. Speaker, victim groups, police chiefs, and police associations, provinces, territories, municipalities have all called for a quick passage of Bill C-14, the Bail and Sentencing Reform Act. And as the hate crimes continue to rise, communities across Canada are urging us to move forward on Bill C-9, the Combating Hate Act. Yet, instead of helping advance this important work, Conservatives have been filibustering the Justice Committee, blocking witnesses, and delaying progress. Can the Minister update this House on the impact of these Conservative delays and what needs to happen so we can get this done for Canadians?
Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
price for these Conservative games? It is Canadians.
That's right.
While victims groups and frontline police officers are asking for us to act urgently and respond to the crisis and the need of the time, the Conservatives are spending their time filibustering with nonsense speeches about cats and dogs, Mr. Speaker. That's right, you heard it right, cats and dogs. These are procedural stunts that they're playing in order to stop these bills from passing through committee, Mr. Speaker. They're obstructing the committee from doing its job. When it comes to public safety, Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives have a lot of bark, but no bite. Yeah. They are...
The honourable member for Kildonan St. Paul.
Speaker, yesterday Algoma Steel laid off 1,000 workers, and those workers remember when the Liberal Prime Minister stood on their shop floor in Sault Ste. Marie just days before the last election and promised to protect their jobs. But today, those same workers face U.S. tariffs, no deal, and now no job. And to add insult to injury, this Liberal government just gave Algoma Steel $400 million with no jobs guarantees, apparently, because now there's 1,000 Canadian workers out of a job before Christmas. So when will the steel workers get the promised protection for their jobs from this Liberal government?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Of course, our thoughts are with the workers at Algoma Steel. I've been in contact with the company. I've been also in contact with the union. And obviously, we know that the entire business sector of the entire business model of the steel sector in Canada is based on U.S. automakers. And obviously, with unjustified and unjustifiable tariffs of 50% by the U.S. administration against our steel sectors, this can't happen. So we've been working with the company, offering $400 million to get through these difficult times as they're pivoting with new products and new markets, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Kildonan St. Paul.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals promised to protect Canadian jobs, and yet the reality is thousands of Canadian families are now going without their primary source of income because the Liberals haven't delivered on their promises. Softwood lumber mills are closing, auto companies are cancelling projects in Canada and moving them to the United States, and in Sault Ste. Marie, now 1,000 people have just lost their jobs at the steel mill. So workers don't need more Liberal platitudes or corporate handouts or broken promises. They need their jobs back. They need results. So when are Canadians going to get the trade deal we were promised?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Mr. Speaker, newsflash, we're in a trade war. And therefore, because of what is happening right now, we're fighting for the jobs at Algoma Steel and across the steel sector in the country. And that is why we've been there for the...
Okay. The minister may continue.
Mr. Speaker, is it from the top? From the top or not? Okay, so Mr. Speaker, my point is that we'll continue to fight for these jobs, and the company was clear today. If it wasn't for the $400 million and the $100 million by Ontario, the very existence of Algoma Steel would have been in jeopardy, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Edmonton, Griesbach.
Mr. Speaker, my condolences to the 1,000 workers laid off from Algoma Steel in my hometown of Sault Ste. Marie. My dad, Tony, worked at Algoma for over 30 years. The Prime Minister is squarely to blame for these layoffs. In the election, our elbows up PM said he was the guy who could get a good trade deal from Donald Trump. Instead of a deal, this PM said, who cares? And we saw higher tariffs on Canadian goods. The results? These layoffs and others. When will this Prime Minister finally get a deal with Trump?
L'honorable ministre de l'Industrie.
Mr. Speaker, I have a lot of respect for my colleague and a lot of respect for his dad and all those who've worked or working at Algoma Steel. And that's why our priority and my priority is to make sure that they can continue to earn a great salary at Algoma Steel as the company is adapting to new type of steel for the defense sector and also for the housing sector. And I must say that our Buy Canada policy is also helping Algoma and other steel plants as we'll continue to fight for these jobs across the country.
The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-les-Échemins-Lévis. Mr. Speaker, it takes remarkable talent to somehow spend $15 billion and manage to create more unemployment. Food banks are struggling to keep up, but the Prime Minister prefers to hand out checks to multinationals, $15 billion to Stellantis, $400 million to Algoma. And what's the result? Job losses. Can the Prime Minister explain his genius strategy, which involves paying big businesses for them to lay off Canadians? Could you explain that, please? The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the House, we are protecting the essential programs that Canadians depend on. We are protecting the Canada Child Benefit. We are protecting dental care. We are here to protect and to help families. And on the other side of the House, they are voting against all of those things. The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-les-Chemin-Lévis. I think the member didn't understand my question. Let me repeat. Canadians are struggling to put food on the table because of the cost of living, and yet the government keeps taking money out of their pockets and putting it in the pockets of big business. This Prime Minister managed to find $72 million for Nokia, $400 for Algoma, and $15 billion for Stellantis. And what is the government getting in exchange? Job losses. Is this the new Liberal strategy, making Canadians poorer to make big business richer? Is that it, Mr. Speaker? The Honourable Minister for Government Transformation. On this side of the House, we believe it's essential to support the sectors impacted by the tariff war with the U.S. But my colleague voted against a tax cut that would represent $800 per family in Canada and Quebec. She voted against the National School Food Program that would save $800 per vulnerable family. She voted against the Canada Dental Care Plan, which would help at least 10,000 people in her own riding of Bellechasse. She voted against things like investments in the Davie shipyard, which is struggling to find the skilled workers it needs. I hope she will change her mind and vote in favor of these government programs.
Windsor West.
Mr. Speaker, the Feed Ontario Hunger Report shows over 1 million Ontarians went to food banks 8.7 million times over the last year. That's the highest ever. While Canadians are struggling, this Liberal Prime Minister has handed over billions to big corporations with zero job guarantees. $400 million to Algoma, 1,000 jobs lost. $15 billion to Stellantis, 3,000 jobs gone. Why does this Prime Minister always make taxpayers pay for his sweetheart corporate deals while Canadians go hungry?
Secretary of State for Sport.
Mr. Speaker, those food security experts and poverty elimination companies, they do a great job advocating directly to government, and what they are saying is we need more affordable housing. In the last 2 weeks alone, Mr. Speaker, we've announced 857 new co-op housing. And that's really close to home for me, Mr. Speaker, because I'm proud to grow up in co-op housing. Unlike some of the Conservatives who like to call it Soviet-style housing or degrade affordable housing as shacks or something like that, Mr. Speaker, we're creating more jobs. We're creating opportunity for Canadians. And every single time we bring a motion forward in this House to provide that care to Canadians, whether it's through child care or dental care or affordable food in schools, Mr. Speaker, they vote against it.
The Honourable Member for Middlesex London.
Speaker, food banks are seeing record demand while this Prime Minister keeps shoveling taxpayer dollars at multinationals with zero job guarantees. At Cami, pink slips are hitting kitchen tables and it's just weeks before Christmas. Families across Middlesex London are losing their paychecks and they can't afford to buy groceries. The minister said that she'd get an update from GM, but it's been 40 days and she's got nothing. No plan, no transparency, no jobs. So why does this Prime Minister keep making Canadians pay the price for his financial incompetence?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
Monsieur le Président, lorsque les conservateurs ont voté contre...
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives voted against Budget 2025. They voted against help for Canadians. They voted against the Guaranteed Income Supplement, rather. They voted against the New Horizons program for seniors. They voted against
That's really weird, her answering in French for no fun.
care workers. And they voted against dental care for millions of Canadian seniors.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Northwest.
It's been 8 months since the Prime Minister was elected, claiming he would build nation-building projects at speeds not seen in generations. Now we've learned that he hasn't even started consultations. He could have started these within weeks of the last election given the existential crisis that he claimed. The Prime Minister's incoming Heritage Minister said consultation should have begun yesterday, taking a shot at the Prime Minister, and that you can't do consultations on a desktop, taking another shot at the Natural Resources Minister, who said it could be done by Zoom. Has the Prime Minister avoided consultation with First Nations because he doesn't care about them, or because he doesn't want a pipeline built?
The Honourable Minister for Crown Indigenous Relations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our relationship with our partners, First Nations, Métis, Indigenous rights holders, is of utmost importance. With major projects, consultation and the duty to accommodate will be adhered to. There is no major projects before us right now. This is just an MOU. It is the process that is outlining the conditions to be met. Major projects will require the duty to consult. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Langley Township, Fraser Heights.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Liberal Keep It on the Ground caucus is saying that the MOU with Alberta is not a pipeline approval. There is no project, no route, certainly no consensus, and no private sector proponent. Now, they're conveniently hiding behind the tanker ban, which is preventing us from getting our resources to market, all the while American tankers are happily sailing right by from Alaska down to the lower 48. So, simple question, will the Prime Minister lift the tanker ban so that we can build a pipeline, or is this just a pipe dream?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, we are in a trade war. It's time to recognize that. Our agreement with Alberta is about a Team Canada plan to strengthen our hand and put Canada in a position to win that trade war. We're going to do it by growing exports beyond a single customer and driving down emissions with strong industrial carbon pricing and a commitment to major decarbonization projects in partnership with jurisdictions and in partnership with First Nations.
Honourable Member for Fleetwood Port Kells.
Mr. Speaker, this past weekend, important discussions were held in Surrey, British Columbia on strengthening our law enforcement and intelligence agencies to combat extortion. Protecting Canadians has never been more critical, yet the Conservatives play political games and stall measures like Bill C-2, preventing law enforcement from getting the key tools they need to protect Canadians. Can the Minister of Public Safety please outline the steps
the Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, first of all, let me thank the member from Fleetwood Port Kells for the very important question and his hard work. Mr. Speaker, we're taking real action to fight extortion. Last week we had a summit in Surrey, British Columbia that brought together the government of British Columbia. We brought together law enforcement, the extortion task force, as well as municipal leaders in order to ensure that we're all on the same page and we're fighting this fight together, Mr. Speaker. But unfortunately, the Conservatives continue to play games, Mr. Speaker. They're opposing critical bills that will strengthen law enforcement. So I urge the Conservative Party to come on board and support.
The Honourable Member for Saskatoon West.
Mr. Speaker, when the new Minister of Culture was Immigration Minister, he said, quote, "I don't see a world in which we lower immigration targets. Whether we revise them upwards or not is something that I have to look at, but certainly I don't think we will lower them," end quote. Then in 2024, he made history by allowing nearly 500,000 permanent residents into the country, the highest ever in a single year. Today, we're in a national housing crisis, emergency rooms are overflowing, and we're in a youth jobs crisis. Mr. Speaker, how does the current immigration minister feel about holding the bag for a Trudeau-era guy who just got promoted for making a big mess?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration. The Honourable Minister of Immigration. Okay, whoa, we're gonna have to let some time go by here because everyone's getting very excited every time the Secretary of State gets up. The Secretary of State for Rural Development.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm practicing my French.
The Saskatchewan Conservative Caucus
There was 14 of them elected over a period of 10 years. That's 140 collective years that we've had conservative representation from Saskatchewan, Mr. Speaker. And you tell me, what have they accomplished in those 10 years, Mr. Speaker? On housing, on trade, on infrastructure. They have accomplished nothing, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Quite the indictment when they don't even let the immigration minister answer a question about immigration. In a CBC interview back when he was the immigration minister.
I give the floor to the member for Calgary Nose Hill. The member for Calgary Nose Hill.
In a CBC interview back when he was immigration minister, the new Minister of Culture dismissed Premier's pleas for support for a flood of Liberal-enabled fraudulent asylum claims by saying, I think what they, the Premiers, are advancing is a complete crock of bleep. In reality, he oversaw billions of dollars going to house bogus asylum claimants while emergency room overflowed. So my question is this: if that failed immigration minister can get a promotion, does this mean that the current Prime Minister will promote the current one too?
The Honourable Minister for Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship.
Speaker, thank you very much. Let me thank this colleague and this member for placing her confidence in me and in this government. Let me tell you one thing. Canadians elected this government with a big mandate. We have brought in a generational budget that includes a sustainable immigration plan, one that will deal with permanent immigration as well as the temporary immigration and bring our global talent. Why does that member and her party keep obstructing every single time? Get on board!
Again, through the chair. The honourable member for Calgary Nose Hill.
It's so bad. Okay, in all seriousness, in 2022, a Jamaican national was convicted in the United States of an aggravated felony of sexual abuse of a minor. But in 2023, the Liberals welcomed him to Canada. Worse, they allowed him to claim asylum, and today, that child sexual abuser is still in Canada. The Liberals voted against Conservative measures to prevent non-citizen child sexual abusers from entering Canada, abusing our immigration system, and avoiding deportation. Why are they protecting non-citizen child sexual abusers? Why didn't they support our policies?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, Canada has a robust system of inadmissibility that ensures that those who are not eligible to be in here will be removed, Mr. Speaker. This year we are on target to remove over 20,000 people who are ineligible to be here, including those with criminal offenses. But let me be very clear, Mr. Speaker. The party opposite, the sanctimony that they put forward on issues of public safety needs to be checked when they oppose the very tools that public safety officers need to do their job effectively, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Labrador.
Mr. Speaker, it's been 19 years since the First Nations Fiscal Management Act came into force, thanks to the leadership and determination of First Nations across Canada. Since then, the Act has evolved into a highly successful and robust system that supports First Nations with fiscal management, local taxation, and access to pooled borrowing. Can the Minister update this House on the important work underway to advance Indigenous economic prosperity? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Minister for Crown Indigenous Relations.
Budget 2025 proposes important updates to the First Nations Fiscal Management Act that will enable the First Nations Finance Authority to lend to special purpose vehicles. For Indigenous communities, this makes it easier for multiple nations to work together, borrow as a group, and lower administrative costs. They also provide access to better borrowing rates and more opportunities to take equity in major projects and infrastructure. With improved access to financing, communities can create good jobs, grow local businesses, and build lasting prosperity for future generations. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Pont-Neuf-Jacques-Cartier. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's incredible that this member has become the new Minister of Official Languages. That member said again this morning that he's tired of doing something about the decline of French. But I have news. The new Conservative Party of Canada will be fighting for the rights of Francophones throughout the country. Even the Premier of Quebec said that it was a crying shame that that person has become Minister of Official Languages. Is the new Quebec lieutenant just as tired of fighting the decline of French, like his colleague at Heritage said? The Honourable Minister of Canadian Identity and Culture. Mr. Speaker, indeed, French is declining throughout Canada. And what I am unhappy about is the hypocrisy of these Conservatives, who voted against our plan for French with $4.1 billion to be spent throughout Canada to make French stronger in our country. When I was Minister of Immigration, I doubled Francophone immigration outside Quebec. The Conservatives voted against that, and they voted against the $4.1 billion plan. What is truly a shame is their hypocrisy.
Member for Nunavut.
Living downstream from the oil sands, the Mikisew First Nations have higher rates of cancer. Yet this government is developing regulations to allow affected water to be released into the Athabasca River. UNDRIP and their Environmental Racism Act must be implemented to protect the health of First Nations. How can the Liberals proceed with regulations knowing that Mikisew First Nations have not given consent because they are dying from cancer?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pollution from the oil sands tailings ponds is a serious issue, and we acknowledge and take seriously the concerns raised by nearby Indigenous communities in the region. We are currently supporting a study of health impacts on nearby communities, and there is a Crown Indigenous working group that is working on water release standards. We're committed to protecting Canada's environment and the health of communities, and of course the Indigenous communities nearby.
The Honourable Member for Kootenay-Alberni.
Mr. Speaker, our healthcare system is already stretched, yet the federal government piles on needless work. The College of Family Physicians warns that the disability tax credit form is worsening the strain and costing patients access to care. Instead of fixing it, Budget 2025 allocates $10 million to help people navigate the same broken system. Provinces already determine disability eligibility. Why won't the minister automatically accept provincial approval for the disability tax credit to reduce barriers and let family doctors focus on patient care?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Speaker, it's historic. For the first time in this country, we have a disability tax benefit, and I want to thank all parliamentarians that supported this. Unfortunately, again, the Conservatives voted against the very people they say they wish to help. But, Mr. Speaker, Budget 2025 actually goes a step further, and it compensates people for the burden, financial burden of filing, getting doctors' forms to file for their credit. And, Mr. Speaker, we will continue to work with people who are living with disabilities to make sure that they have every opportunity to thrive in Canadian society.
And that concludes question period today. It is my pleasure to lay before the House in both official languages the fourth edition of House of Commons Procedure and Practice, la procédure et les usagers de la Chambre des communes. As many honourable members know, the first three editions were respectively published in 2000, 2009.
So there's a new Green Book. That's much better. I guess Northern Perspective will be talking about that. That's their bailiwick. They are very much into procedure. Just trying to come on. There we go. That's better. You can't hear it, but it's bugging me because I can hear it in the background. Well, the immigration minister, I'm pretty sure she's probably going to be shuffled out with the next cabinet shuffle over the Christmas holidays. She reminds me of a certain comedian that isn't around anymore. Jesus, she's just so annoying. But you can tell Michelle Rempel Gardner was a little taken aback by her crazy response. Like, get on board, yeah! It's, of course, so you've seen here, they've talked about Bill C2, they talked about Bill C9. If you were here for the preamble prior to question period, I touched on those bills, and we know the authoritarian stuff that is in those bills. So, as a reminder, public service announcement, please call your MP. It doesn't matter if your MP is not conservative. You need to call them and register yourself as your residents saying what bills you're for and which you're against. They keep a tally in their constituency offices. Now, whether or not they actually pay attention to that, but apparently they're supposed to. Apparently it's supposed to actually have some kind of impact. It's supposed to be recorded. My MP used to be a conservative MP here in the area, and then in the last election, the El Bozos brought in a liberal. So I've registered my nay vote as a resident, saying I don't want you voting for this Bill C9. I don't want you voting for Bill C2. I don't want you voting for Bill C11. They are all authoritarian bills. I just need to tell him what I feel. He doesn't need to agree with me, but he does represent me regardless of what party he's at. And other than that, I guess they didn't actually bring up Brookfield today, did they? I don't recall that. What was interesting, though, was the Prime Minister leaving. I mean, he's done this before, but I mean, I guess it was quite obvious. He stuck around for a couple of questions and then gonzo. But as you can see, they have their script of answers, and they don't even care about providing an answer. You saw that with that one minister that answered in French to an English question. She's fully bilingual. She can speak in English, but she decided she was going to answer in French and not provide an answer, obviously, because she listed off a whole bunch of things that had nothing to do with the question asked. I wish people would remember that. And of course, people never do. People don't watch question period, or if they do, they get annoyed. And then, of course, they don't know how their own MPs are acting in the House. Now, mind you, there's only get a handful that get to really say anything in the House. Those that want to, and those that would like to, and those that the party pushes forward to say, hey, you need to do some public speaking. And you can see that in some of these liberals that they bring forward from the backbench to ask the government questions, which I call the freebie questions, because it's a question by the government to the government, a freebie question. Self-licking ice cream cone of questions. Well, other than that, I think everything has been covered, so we will see you tomorrow. On the way out, we'll give you a quick view of just a different intro for a Saturday show that I started last Saturday, the Science Fiction Saturdays with Occam's Razor. So we'll give you a quick little view of just a different intro, and then after that, we'll do our outro, and we will see you tomorrow. Thanks a lot for coming by. I really appreciate it. Like, share, subscribe. Please leave some comments. Drives the algorithm. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Working. I am programmed to destroy those life forms which are imperfect. Non-sequitur. Your facts are uncoordinated.
Program complete. Enter when ready.
Entropy is a carbon capture company getting massive Canadian handouts. Their biggest investor is Brookfield. This Prime Minister is more worried about making big bucks for his Brookfield buddies and building pipe dreams.
Pressure, and they should stop just whining.
If the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth.
Yesterday from the Prime Minister really freaked these Conservatives out because they saw the ambition in that speech. And not only did they see it, in that
Speaker, we will take no lessons from these Conservatives. Trust me on that.
To ensure the jobs of today and the future, they know that the youth...
The only thing that's revolting are those answers.
It is too bad that minister didn't write the Prime Minister's speech yesterday, because it wouldn't have bored and depressed to tears all of those poor students stuck in that room. There he spoke about how they would have to sacrifice more and that it would take time to reverse all of the misery that is built up over the last 10 years. Mr. Speaker, young people want to have homes. They want to have jobs. They want to have hope. They want a budget that is affordable so they can have a life that is affordable. Will the Prime Minister introduce that budget so that Canadians can restore the promise of their country?
And we decide what comes next.
Canada know that this government has their back. It will continue. There's going to be a powerful statement for the young people of Canada.
Driving inflation. The more Liberals spend, the more it costs Canadians at the grocery store. 25% of Canadians are using food banks because they can't afford to eat. So when will the Prime Minister finally get his inflationary deficits under control so Canadians can put food on the table?
Mr. Speaker, Conservative members pretend to care about food insecurity, but then they call feeding children garbage.
Mr. Speaker, what's garbage was that answer.
Did the Prime Minister see the ad before it went out?
Of course there are too many people living in poverty in Canada, but there are significant initiatives being put in place by this government.
Honest and telling Canadians.
Canada's economy is in fact growing, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, termination letters are starting to roll out for Kami workers out at Ingersoll just weeks before Christmas. One of the workers said it's a punch right to the gut. But on October 23rd, the Minister of Industry said, and I quote, "I expect a full update within 15 days from GM." Well, her self-imposed deadline has come and gone. There is no plan. There is no action. There is no update. Our workers can't keep feeding themselves off of empty Liberal promises. So after breaking her own promises, why should our auto workers believe a word she says?
Mr. Speaker, I beg to differ. You know why? Because the workers don't agree with my colleague's statement. The Unifor unionized workers are completely behind the government's plan to push back against any form of movement at Ingersoll, because we believe that GM can act along with the government and along with Unifor to bring back a new model. Meanwhile, I've had several meetings. I even went to Ingersoll. I met with Unifor, and Mr. Speaker will continue to fight for these jobs.
The honourable member for Elgin St. Thomas.
When GM shut down the Kami plant and laid off 1,200 workers, the industry minister claimed she was on it. She said she was demanding a full update from GM within 15 days and that she would offer transparency to Canadians. That was 39 days ago. No clarity, no plan, no relief for auto workers in Elgin, St. Thomas, and London, who this Liberal government told they would have their backs. When the Prime Minister was asked about standing up for Canadian jobs, he said, "Who cares?" My question is to the industry minister. Does she?
Before Canadian jobs would be protected before giving Stellantis billions of dollars in taxpayers' money. The Minister of Industry did not read it. The Deputy Minister for Industry and the past Deputy Minister of Industry did not read it. Finance Canada lawyers did not read it. They all pointed their fingers at the former Industry Minister, who is, of course, the Finance Minister now. So before giving billions in taxpayers' dollars for a project whose jobs are now fleeing to the U.S., did the Finance Minister read the contracts?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Mr. Speaker, not only did the entire team read it, but
Has the minister seen the fully unredacted contract?
No.
Has Privy Council, has PCO seen this contract unredacted?
My sense is no, they would not have seen it.
So the previous deputy minister saw the contract?
Well, I'm assuming that. I don't know that for a fact.
What about legal? Like, obviously there's some legal folks that would have to see it. Is there a legal department that would have seen this? You're telling me the legal team for a $15 billion contract doesn't see the entire contract?
You would have a lawyer sitting beside you, which would be normal for any other private company to have lawyers in the room when you're making these negotiations, because they're going to see those details.
We do not have legal sitting in with.
But you know what we read?